Sir, would you like to go ahead?
Bern Evans at the Land Stewardship Center. I've got 1,000 questions and 1,000 comments, so I'll try to focus. The EDS,
Do you want to tell us who you want to consider?
Our international UN man. I'm sorry, forgot his name. Wildlife Habitat Canada, thank you.
Okay.
But because of the international experience. EGS, I find, and when talking amongst ourselves, we are the converted, we understand the concept. When I try to discuss that with some of my less scientifically literate acquaintances, by the way, that includes most politicians, they don't get it. So I translate. I said, life services, clean air, clean water, healthy land for healthy food. That's what I need to live. That's what we're talking about. This is a preamble to my question. None of you, except Mr. Brunel, indirectly referred to security of food supply and the fact that with the increasing cost of transportation, I may no longer get Philippine mangoes or Chilean grapes or French wine. And so I'm very concerned over land and food production as, I think, a major sub-issue in the stewardship thing, and I don't see it addressed specifically by either of you in the panel or the report.
I think that's a very good point, and I think it's something that could be addressed through that roadmap process. I mean, how many people are wearing jewelry in this room? Put your hands up. All right. How many people are driving cars? Put your hands up. How many people live in houses with wood? Put your hands up. I could go down the list. There are natural resources that we need and we use, and we eat. At the same time, we're knocking the farmers for poor agricultural practices. We buy wood. We're knocking the foresters for poor forestry practices. These kinds of things have to be addressed if we're really talking about sustainability. We can't deal with these things in isolation as we have in the past. I mean, we're coming up to an even more critical point in my mind of something that has to be integrated into all planning, and that's global warming and climate change. That is going to impact far more than I think any one of us in this room can imagine, both on wildlife populations and human populations. Excuse me. If you simply take a look at the coastlines of the oceans and see where the concentration of human population is and the small pockets where wildlife is, who's going to move where and where are they going to live? It's going to impact farming in a way we can't imagine right now. So when we talk about land stewardship, we talk about a 10-year plan. I think when we're writing a 10-year plan, when we're doing a roadmap, we've got enough predictive modeling that we can guesstimate. It's not going to be exact, but we have to find accommodation for the resource industries. We have to find accommodation for farming. We have to find accommodation for wildlife, for humans. All of these things have to be factored in. And if I stood here and talked about them, I'd take up another 10 minutes. So I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
I just want to confirm that Len's point there, that converging water scarcity and food productivity difficulties are going to make agriculture in Canada a lot more important. And getting our house in order in terms of water resource management and stewardship will be essential if we want to take advantage of that opportunity and do our part for the rest of the world.
My name is Gayleen Halter, and I'm a student at the University of Alberta. And my question is for Tom Hufecker. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. You mentioned earlier, I would love to know what was in those pictures before. Well, actually, if you go to the Cameron Library at the University of Alberta, there's a number of copies of Fisheries Canada research, and they have many very nice color pictures in them of exactly what was there. But I can answer that question. It was pretty much all riparian areas, bogs, and I'd like to point out that the riparian areas provide the multitude of ecological goods and services for humans and other animals. So my question is, and part of the second part of that is I'll comment that my research has shown that all the oil sands projects, including the in situ, require dewatering of the wetlands and bog areas. So what is CAP doing to try to encourage, in the stewardship program, the oil sand company of reclaiming those wetlands? Because the other part of my research shows that they still really don't know how to do that.
I think your conclusion at the end, we can see there is a fair amount of accuracy too. We have not mastered how to reclaim wetlands. Of course, all these areas that we're working in are not wetlands to begin with. Some of them are. I've personally been in situ areas that definitely were not wetlands. They're heavily forested. And as I conceded at the outset, the restoration at this point, it is not a perfect return to the form that the land was in. I don't want to make it sound like we're lying and claiming that it is. It is the best standard that we are able to attain today, and it is a standard that is licensed and approved by the regulators in the province of Alberta. That's the honest answer I can give you. It's an imperfect science.
I understand that, but is CAP trying to encourage the oil sand companies to go beyond in their stewardship program?
Yes, absolutely. There's continual research on raising the bar on all of these issues, and that's something that we want to continue to do. The in situ projects, it sounds like you probably know a fair amount about. And one of the advantages of that is they have a much smaller footprint. There's a greater ability with those projects to set up the structure of the project in the locations that are easier to restore and that'll be less disrupted. I think that'll be the pattern over time. Over time, about 80% of the, I'm sure you know this, over time about 80% of the resource in the oil sands is going to be developed by in situ technology. Right now, because it was the projects that were licensed first and the technology was accessible first, we're very, very heavily mine-driven, but we're moving very much in the other direction. And that's not just because we're great people, it's also because 80% of the resource is too deep to mine and is more effectively produced by the in situ or drilling technology.
Go ahead, please.
My name is Janice Crawford. I work for the Association for Mount Rougemont in southern Quebec, and we're a landholders association for conservation. And my question is addressed to Virginia Potter. Regarding, I'd just like to know a little bit more about the opinion you expressed regarding the funding of a national entity for stewardship. I understood that you believe that it would be a first step. Before doing that, it would be a first step to better evaluate the value of ecological services. And I just wanted to know a little more how you see the order of things. Are there feasibility studies that have been done to determine what we're going to need in terms of data, how much time, how much money is going to be required to evaluate those ecological services in order to justify other actions?
Thanks for that. So as far as steps and how I see it unfolding, I think the first thing is there needs to be a clear understanding of what is the value of goods and services to the general public, to targeted groups as well. I think there has been some work done in that regard, but there is more work to be done. It's not easy work. How do you value clean water? I mean, I think there are ways to go about doing it, but you need to think that through. It needs to be scientifically defensible. It needs to be understandable. So that's the first thing. You need to be able to, what you can quantify, what you can measure, you can manage, you can move forward with. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is when I talk about a business case, I think there's a business case that would be required to establish any sort of a funding program. And the business case also, I think, needs to come back to the point that Mr. Manning made this morning about a national account for ecological services, or the natural balance, or whatever we want to call it. Because I think right now in business decision making, we're only at the cusp of starting to factor into business decisions and investment decisions the cost of public goods that we currently take for granted. They're there and we use them. But there's not been a lot of requirement up till now to understand the cost of what is foregone if we don't have them, and to build that into decision making. So when I think of a funding program, I'm not necessarily thinking government funding program. I'm thinking maybe there's a way to build it into decision making for businesses, for resource sector, and so on. For any type of funding program that would be suggested by government, there would have to be a clear business case. And again, going back to the first speaker this morning, it needs to be, the case needs to be well understood by the political level, who are the policy decision makers, and that's what would be required. Okay.